Well, it is Friday, and most of Sacramento, anyway, has escaped quite a windy, rainy evening. Uh, our fence started to blow down. Constance was out mending the fence in her bathrobe. Because part of the fence blew over and she went out and repaired it. She is definitely, besides being a goddess and a priestess, she's quite the prairie goddess. Anyway, what we've got here is from an article that I wrote for the Golden Dawn Journal back in 1995 for my good friends Chick and Tabitha Cicero for their series on the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, and the Invocation of the Holy Guardian Angel was the name of the thing. But here I'm showing you this because we're going to talk about love today, or at least Crowley's chapter, second to the last chapter of Little Essays Toward Truth, is called Love. And we're going to talk about it today. We're going to read that. And I'm showing you this because it has a lot to do with the formula of the Tetragrammaton. That's Yod, He, Vav, He. And it's projected in my article here on a tree of life, where the Yod is has its little top in Kether, number 1 of the supernal triad, and it's got its tail, actually most of its body too, in number 2, Hokmah. That's the grade of Magus. Number 2, Hokmah, is the grade of Magus. And the first He is takes care of number 3 of a big tree of life. So Yod, He together make up the supernal triad. Yod is a father, He is a mother, and they when they join together, and the Yod incarnates himself as the child Vav, and the He incarnates herself as the child He final there down in Malkuth. And that would be king, queen, prince, princess. The princess is more or less us. The Vav would be our holy guardian angel. When we unite to the holy guardian angel, it helps turn us into He and Yod. It's an alternating current, which I'll explain here in a second. Or I'll attempt to explain, for Christ's sake. Here we are. Love. And the Magus is love, and bindeth together that and this in his conjuration. That's sort of an epigram for this chapter. The formula of the Tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He, is the complete mathematical expression of love. Its essence is this: any two things unite with a double effect. Firstly, the destruction of both, accompanied by the ecstasy due to the relief of the strain of the separateness. That is awesomely concise. Secondly, the creation of a third thing, accompanied by the ecstasy of the realization of existence, which is joy, until with the development it becomes aware of its imperfection and loves. Okay, I'm going to have to digress. Hope you'll forgive me. And I am going to turn to that thing that I said about the Tetragrammaton. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to talk about the Tetragrammaton. Yod He Vav He. And it's a little exegesis on the Emerald Tablet of Hermes stanza that says, "Its power is perfect after it has been united with the spiritus earth." With this sentence, the entire plot of the great Hermetic play is established. The dramatis personae are as follows. King Yod, the unknowable, supreme Godhead, seat of infinite power, but who has no kingdom of expression through which to exercise the power until he weds Queen He, the unquenchable, she whose lands and possessions are everywhere and everything. Prince Vav, heir to the throne of the king, the handsome firstborn of King Yod and Queen He, who, because he's one generation removed from the infinite power of his father, is prevented from living in the royal palace, that'd be the supernal triad, and instead sets up a principality in the macrocosmic countryside. And that macrocosmic countryside would be number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But with his headquarters in number 6. Princess He Final, heir to the throne of the queen. The beautiful but naive sister of Prince Vav, who, because she is 2 generations removed from the king and queen, that's how it works in Kabbalah. It's pretty chauvinistic. Because she is 2 generations removed from the king and queen, has been stricken with a severe case of amnesia and is completely ignorant of her royal birthright and her relationship with Prince Vav. She is hopelessly insecure. This is you and me, guys. She is hopelessly insecure and thoroughly identifies with her sorrowful microcosmic status. She is only vaguely aware of the greater macrocosmic principality. Sometimes, in reveries, she dreams of meeting a handsome prince who will lift her from her life of drudgery. But most of her time is spent working as an actress in an endless loop of soap opera reruns. Obviously, we are the poor princesses, He Final. But residing within the gross layers of each of us is a perfect portion of the supreme deity. As a matter of fact, this little piece of God stuff is our true identity. Human beings are unique test tubes containing an incongruous mixture of the highest high and the lowest low. We are the spiritus earth spoken of in the Emerald Tablet. The holy guardian angel is, of course, Prince Vav, and verse 5 reveals to us that he needs the princess as much as she needs him. The power is perfect after it has been united with spiritus earth. The only way Princess He Final can escape the endless curtain calls of incarnations is to marry Prince Vav. And the only way Prince Vav can regain his birthright as king is to make Princess Hayfinal his bride. When this is accomplished, the power is perfect. The prince makes the princess pregnant, making her the mother queen, making him the father king. Just as it took two to tango, Yod-He, to initiate creation, involution, so too it takes two to tango, Vav and Hayfinal, to begin the ascent, the evolution back to Godhead. But I digress. I'll start that sentence over again. The formula of the Tetragrammaton is the complete mathematical expression of love. Its essence is this: any two things unite with a double effect. Firstly, the destruction of both, accompanied by the ecstasy due to the relief of the strain of separateness. Secondly, the creation of a third thing, accompanied by the ecstasy of the realization of existence, which is joy until, with development, it becomes aware of its imperfection and loves. I digress for a second. Those of you who are interested and study the mystery of the Eucharist, of a Eucharistic and ecstatic Eucharistic ceremony, similar to that of the Roman Catholic Mass or the Eastern Orthodox, Russian Greek Orthodox Mass, their treatment of the elements of the Mass, the coming together of the blood and the flesh of the deity, and the consummation thereof in the ecstasy of those beautiful ceremonies, should be very interested in this formula of Tetragrammaton. It is indeed the key to the formula of all joyous and ecstatic forms of magic. The dissolution of the self in the beloved, all forms of bhakti yoga, the union with God by devotion, by the love, by your ability to give and the ability to receive back the love from the deity to create this electricity that is the alternating current of the Tetragrammaton. But I digress. This formula of love is universal. All laws of nature are its servitors. This gravitation, chemical affinity, electrical potential, and the rest, and these are alike mere aspects of the general law. And there's so many differently observed statements of the unique tendency. The universe is conserved by the duplex action involved in the formula. The disappearance of father and mother is precisely compensate with the emergence of the son and daughter. It may therefore be considered as a perpetual motion engine which continually develops rapture in each of its phases. The sacrifice of Iphigenia, Iphigenia is Agamemnon's daughter. It's kind of a long story, but just briefly, if I may digress, in the story of the Trojan War story, King Agamemnon of the Greeks, he's got his whole army ready to set sail for Troy, to kick Troy's ass for stealing Helen. Anyway, but they get to the where was it? Aeolus is, I guess that's what Crowley's. Anyway, they get to the port where they're going to set sail, and there's no wind. Okay, and they're just sitting around. They're eating their K rations. They're bored stiff. They're losing their enthusiasm and everything. And he's got to do something, and he can't do something without the wind. Okay, he needs the wind. So no, Alias is the god or the ruler of the wind. Excuse me. We'll talk about him in a second. So he talks to somebody. He calls up the psychic hotline or something, and they say, you know, the only way you're going to get that wind, the only way you're going to talk that Aeolus or Aeolus, you got to sacrifice your daughter. That ought to do it. And there's a big thing back and forth, and there's subterfuges and tricks, and he sends for Egypt or to Greece and gets his daughter and stuff like that. Anyway, he ends up. I won't say he ends up sacrificing her. It works out in such a way, in such a transcendent, Homeric twists of motives, that she ends up willingly sacrificing herself. She ends up getting sacrificed, but in such a way that it not only appeases the goddess that was pissed when Agamemnon, killed a deer. It's a long story. She ends up not only getting sacrificed, but being placed in the heavens as a constellation, as a stars. Okay, it's better than if she had lived, in other words, according to the story. So, but I digress. The sacrifice of Iphigenia at Aeolus, that's the port, may be taken as typical of the formula. The mystical effect is the assumption of the maid to the bosom of the goddess. That's the happy ending. Okay. While for the magical, the destruction of her earthly part, the fawn, that's composes the rage of Aeolus and bids the Danaids set sail. Now, it cannot be too clearly understood or too acutely realized by means of action that the intensity of the joy liberated varies with the original degree of opposition between the two elements of the union. Heat, light, electricity are phenomena expressive of the fullness of passion, and their value is greatest when the diversity of the energies composing the marriage is most strenuous. Think Liz Taylor and Richard Burton. One obtains more from the explosion of hydrogen and oxygen than from the dull combination of substances indifferent to each other. Thus, the union of nitrogen and chlorine is so little satisfying to either molecule that the resulting compound disintegrates with explosive violence at the slightest shock. We might say then, in the language of Thelema, that such an act of love is not love under will. It is, so to speak, a black magical operation. Let's consider in a figure the feelings of a molecule of hydrogen in the presence of one of oxygen or of chlorine. It is made to suffer intensely by the realization of the extremity of its deviation from the perfect type of monad by the contemplation of an element so supremely opposed to its own nature at every point. So far as it is egoist, its reaction must be scorn and hatred, must be of scorn and hatred. But as it understands the true shame that is put upon its separateness by the presence of its opposite, these feelings turn... Excuse me just for a moment. Hello, Patricia. I'm right in the middle of my show.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Check your email.
Okay, I'll check my email.
Bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm always happy to hear from Patricia, though. Okay. But as it understands its true shame that is put upon its separateness by the presence of its opposite, these feelings turn to anguished yearning. It begins to crave the electric spark which will enable it to assuage its pangs by the annihilation of all those properties which constitute its separate existence in the rapture of union, and at the same time fulfill its passion to create a perfect type of peace. We see the same psychology everywhere in the physical world. A stronger and more elaborate illustration might well have been drawn were the purpose of this essay less Catholic. Not Roman Catholic, but more universal. From the structure of the atoms themselves and their effort to resolve the agony of their agitation in the beatific nirvana of noble gases. The process of love under will is evidently progressive. The father who has slain himself in the womb of the mother finds himself again with her and transfigured in the son. This son acts as a new father and is thus that the self is constantly aggrandized and able to counterpose an even greater not self, until the final act of love under will, which comprehends the universe in sama samadhi. The passion of hatred is thus really directed against oneself. It is the expression of the pain and shame of separateness, and only appears to be directed against the opposite by psychological transference. This thesis, the school of Freud, has made sufficiently clear. There is then little indeed in common between love and such tepid passions as regard affection or kindliness. It is the uninitiate who to his damnation in hell of cabbage soup and soap suds confuses them. Love may best be defined as the passion of hatred inflamed to the point of madness when it takes refuge in self-destruction. Love is clear-sighted with the lust of deadly rage, anatomizing its victim with keen energy, seeking where best to strike home mortally to the heart. It becomes blind only when its fury has completely overpowered it and thrust it into the red maw of the furnace of self-immolation. We must further distinguish love in this magical sense from the sexual formula. A symbol and type, though it be thereof, that be thereof. For the pure essence of magic is a function of ultimate atomic consciousness, and its operations must be refined from all confusion and contamination. The truly magical operations of love are therefore the trances, more especially those of understanding. And we just talked about understanding when we, several essays back, when we were covering the Bina level of the supernal triad. Be ready have been appreciated by those who have made a careful Kabbalistic study of the nature of Bina, for she is omniform as love and death, the great sea whence all life springs and whose black womb reabsorbs all. She thus resumes in herself the duplex process of the formula of love under will. For is not Pan, the all-begetter, in the heart of the groves at high noon? And is not her hair the trees of eternity, the filaments of all devouring Godhead under the night of Pan? Yet let it not be forgotten that though she be love, her function is but passive. She is the vehicle of the Word, Hokmah, of Hokmah, wisdom, the All-Father, who is the will of the All-One. And thus they err with grievous error and dire who prate of love as the formula of magic. Love is unbalanced, void, vague, undirected, sterile, nay, more, a very shell, the prey of abject orts demonic. Love must be under will. Okay, tomorrow for Saturday morning cartoons, we will do the final little chapter of Little Essays Toward Truth. And this one is called Truth. So until Saturday morning cartoons, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.